Alright guys, what's up everybody? The Khaiza is back and welcome back to another video of the Khaiza's Dojo, the Khaiza Dojo. Welcome back to this tutorial discussion space that's all about fighting games, you know, fighting games are so great. Welcome back to another, what would I call this? Like a lesson or an episode? What would I call it? I'll just call it my own words. Don't take it for granted, Webster's dictionary, I swear to God. I'm gonna call it a LEPISODE, a lesson in an episode, you know, lesson, an episode. This first episode, I was having a little bit of a predicament about because I wanted to start off, you know, what would be a good way to like start off the Khaiza's Dojo and lead on to other projects that I have in my head. I would say that I want to start off with a anecdotal one or a personal episode about me. And that would be, you know, where did you start in fighting games, or how did you become a fighting game fan? So, the answer to that, well, logically speaking, or objectively speaking, I kind of became a fan of FGs back in the PS1 era of my childhood, when I had like a PS1. And I think the fighting game that really introduced me to fighting games was Marvel vs. Capcom 1. Now, this game I have not played a lot, but I do remember vivid memories and images of me back when I was like, what, 8 or 9 years old? Back when I was living in my old house, Jersey City. Not first house, but then there was like the second house. Yeah, the second house I was living in. I was playing Marvel vs. Capcom 1 because my cousin, who also owns a PlayStation 1, brought over his games, and we would like, you know, play together. And he was like older than me, of course. We would just like play Marvel vs. Capcom 1. I would just like play the game very low. Like, I didn't play it a lot when I was like a kid because I had like other games that like mesmerized the shit out of me as well. But Marvel 1 was like my first fighting game. You know, it was pretty awesome. It was pretty cool. Like Marvel 1 was like a super stylized, you know, comic book style. The music was awesome. The art style was pretty cool. Introduced me to like Capcom characters as well as Marvel stuff as well. And of course, there are, you know, certain characters that really developed my body in more ways than one. But Marvel 1 was like a game that I was really fond of, and that was, objectively speaking, my first ever, you know, fighting game experience. And I'll still like treasure that to this day, even though I never played a lot of Marvel 1, like around in my preteen and young adult years. But damn, Marvel 1 was goddamn like excellent. Like it was like a masterpiece to me. And I wish I could have had like Marvel 1, like there was like an MVC Origins on the PS3. I wish I like got a copy of that, but unfortunately it's sold out because, you know, Marvel at the time and Capcom were at like bitter buddies, and they delisted some of Capcom's like games from the PlayStation Network store because, you know, some business legitimate things. I really hate that about that. But yeah, Marvel 1 was there. That's the most prominent one I could think of when I think of my fighting game roots. There were others back in the day that I had when I had a PS1. I think they were Bushido Blade. Bushido Blade was really cool. It was like a bloody pixely like fighter. It was 3D. It was like wacky all over the place, you know, shit like that. There was also Tekken 3. There was also Tekken 3 that came out. I do remember the CG cutscene of Jin Kazama putting on like the gauntlets and the lightning came around him. I remember that opening cinematic, and I do remember getting my ass blasted to me in there was like a Pizza Hut in Route 440, if everybody lives around like that area. And back in the day when you were like 9 or 10, there was like an arcade cabinet for just the kids to just like crowd around that arcade cabinet of Tekken 3, and we would just like play like Tekken until our pizza order came up, and then we would have to like go back home. It was like I wish I could have played more. I'll be like, "Mommy, Apu, can I play a little bit more of this like fighting game in the arcade?" And they were like, "No, we had to get this veggie pizza, get back home and eat, and then sleep, and then go to work the next day or go to school the next day." I'm like, fuck. But yeah, that was like my childhood years of my fighting games, you know, like those games were really like developmental for me in early childhood years. But then as I went into elementary school and finished elementary school, I got fighting games for some odd reason. It just didn't captivate me as much. Although I did have like Marvel 2, but Marvel 2 was not really something I played a lot of as well, nor did I have any interest in Marvel 2. Shocking, really, you know, Marvel 2 is like the GOAT, it's great, but I just never played with Marvel 2 as much. I was young, alright? Let's just call it at that. I was super into anime fighters though. Like, because when you grew up in the 90s or early 2000s, when you were born in the 90s, like if you were a 90s baby and grew up in like in the 2000s, what was prominent in the 2000s? It was anime. Anime like Toonami, 4Kids, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, you know, those like pivotal shows that came out around your childhood really developed you and acquired the taste for anime, and you want to get like anything that relates to like said anime as you possibly can. For me specifically, it was Dragon Ball Z and Naruto. And Dragon Ball Z and Naruto were like my shonen animes, or like my favorite animes growing up, even though I watched them in dub, and especially for Dragon Ball Z with the Faulkner score, oh my god. I would go to the point that like I would get, you know, anime fighting games. Specifically for Dragon Ball, for instance, I would get the Budokai games. Budokai games were like so good. They would just be like super open space fighting games. You would play as your favorite characters like Goku and Vegeta and like Cell and Frieza and like Bardock and Broly, all those guys. And same vein for like Naruto, and same thing for Naruto. It's just like when you grew up around that time, Naruto was like hip hop and new. Like you wanted to be into everything that is like Naruto, especially for me. I got like the manga volumes of like Shippuden, and I didn't get the OGs, but I would just like get anything related to Naruto back in the day. A lot of my games were from like Naruto. And I had like the Clash of Ninja games, I had the Ultimate Ninja games on PS2, well, Clash of Ninja from GameCube and Wii. And you know, those were like my games back in like elementary school. Those were the games that I played a lot. And until I got my PS3 is where I got reintroduced back into fighting games. More notably, the games that got me back into fighting games were one, Street Fighter 4 Super Edition, because, you know, when you get like a console, you only have like one game to work with, but I was like super greedy. I just wanted to like get more games. But Street Fighter 4 was like the game that actually taught me how to do motions like shoryukens, DPs, shurikens, DPs, fireballs, tatsu kicks, shit like that. That was the game that actually taught me how to do motions, because back in the day you didn't know what the hell motions were. You didn't have like a concept of like what the hell is a QCF or a QCB if you're like fucking 10 years old. Like, come on now, you're not fooling me, or you're not fooling anybody. Super Street Fighter 4 was like the game that taught me motions, and it was Street Fighter 4 and more importantly Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Fate of Two Worlds. Fate of Two Worlds. That game was like so prominent during my high school years because Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was like coming out and there were like big expensive like Capcom budgeted CG trailers, and it was like super fucking cool because, you know, hey, Marvel 3? Didn't I play Marvel 1 and Marvel 2 back in the day? Holy shit, it's 3, and wait, it has Dante? So why is Dante in there? Holy shit, I'm down. And then there's Deadpool in there that is super fucking cool. I just love like Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and I was like super anxious to get that game, and I did. I played the hell out of that game. Labbing characters, playing trial stuff, doing arcade modes to get character specific endings. Oh my god, it was just super fun. That game was like, it full speed like brought me back into fighting games. Next installment came out, their add-on expansion, Ultimate Marvel 3, was like the super big expansion with the desired DLC characters that we would so love to want to have. That ultimately came true, but with weirdo additions as well. Marvel 3 was like the game that introduced me to the FGC. More specifically, how like grown-ass men, you know, men and women were playing fighting games and actually making it as a career of going into like local tournaments and even official tournaments like EVO. Ultimate Marvel 3 was like the gateway of me first time experiencing EVO, and also because I was like a super big Marvel fan, I got introduced to Maximilian Dude and his videos on Assist Me, and I became a super big fan of his channel ever since then. The FGC is what introduced me, Ultimate Marvel 3 is what introduced me to the FGC and how FGC people can be into tournaments, local and official, just grown-ass men, just like carrying around like these big blocky like controllers, which I thought that was weird. I thought, ew, arcade sticks. Oh my god, that's super expensive. I'm not getting that. In no way at all. Until, you know, college years where I found an appreciation for it. The gateway for me to see that, oh, they're actually playing at like a competitive level and are actually making a career out of it, just like going into tournaments and doing the best that they can and earning money, like pot bonus money. Like, holy shit, people actually play this game at this age? Oh my god, man, that's crazy. That's super fucking crazy. That was awesome. That's like super fucking wild that fighting games can have that much of an influence. It's super crazy, and I respect like fighting games like to this day because of their, you know, niche but very hype crowd that it gives off to fans of the genre. You go to like crowds like back in the day, now we're in like COVID, but back in the day you would just like get like plane tickets. You would go to like I'll just say like Las Vegas, and you would see like these like crowds and waves of people playing Street Fighter 4, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, all these like other games that just gives off like hype crowds of like, yeah, this is like my people, this is like my crowd, and these like top players at like main stage are duking it out and like giving their all of just like trying to beat the other opponent so that they could get the ultimate trophy prize of EVO or of this like said local. Like, god damn, that's super fucking cool. God damn, man, fighting games are so great. Thank you Tokido, thank you. And then in college is where, of course, like back in high school, I got introduced to a wide variety, a plethora of fighting game like genres. That's where I got like reintroduced to Tekken because a lot of my homies really love the shit out of Tekken because they were 3D boys back in the day, where I was like a 2D boy. Albeit some are like half 50-50. It depends on like the fighting game that they grew up in and have a taste for. Tekken Soul Calibur came into me when a lot of my friends were really hyped for that, and when Tekken 7 was like coming out and Soul Calibur 6 was coming out, everybody was talking about that game. And then of course there was Smash Brothers too. Smash Brothers also was there when saw that there are rivals I found in the college years, and I was like, yo, damn, people actually play Super Smash Brothers or Super Smash Brothers, Tekken, Marvel vs. Capcom, all these like fighting games, that I like grew up with, and they were just like toys, like every other, you know, toys, like a fucking Transformers toy or a Jar Jar Binks toy. These are just like toys to just like parents, but are actually, you know, widely loved and celebrated by like other people around like my age, and even more so to legitimate FGC competitors that are competing in official events and, you know, giving their all and just having fun and doing the best that they can, earning the money with what they have. I'm like, shit, man. You know, all throughout my life, I guess you could say, like in summary, I was definitely into fighting games. I was into the fighting game genre more than like any other. Like, yeah, there were games that I have played back in the day that like took up my time, like Kingdom Hearts 2 and action games like things that I got for the Wii Sports, racing games, you know, all that stuff. But out of all those genres, I found more tuned to fighting games more. Why? Because, you know, a lot of it just comes from my upbringing, because I was like the type of person who was an introvert because of, you know, my autism, Asperger's syndrome, you know, how my inability to speak out my thoughts in a very cohesive, like precise manner. You know, I was more of an introvert more than I was, you know, an extrovert, even though I had my dad who would always like take me out to places, but I was more of an extrovert because of that specific upbringing. And you know, I would just like, for example, I would just like come back home after like high school or elementary school, come back home, wait for mom and dad to like pick me up, and then I would just turn on my game console, whatever I had at the time, and put on like a fighting game and just like lab or do like training mode stuff. And that was like my time. That was my fighting game experience. I always had like a fondness for labbing and doing trials and stuff, because, you know, it's like a learning experience. It taught me how to like actually play on like a controller at the time when I didn't have a fight stick, of like what button should I press, or like what type of commands do I need to do. And it was only until college and the later half of my high school years that when I found friends that I actually started to play a little bit outside of my comfort zone, because again, there are people that actually play games besides just me, which I assumed at the time, that played the same or similar games that I do. And I developed like fierce rivals and dear compadres growing up, and I'm hella proud about that. I'm hella happy about that, you know, even though I get my like ass beat because these are like new games and I need like time to play a fighting game. But you know, to sum it all up, that's my fighting game roots, that's my upbringings, that's how my mortalis has been coiled by the FG community, the FGC, how I grew up with. What did I play? I still play fighting games to this day. I'm still experiencing new stuff as the days goes by. There's obviously a plethora of new fighters that just come in, and I want to take a look at that. I want to I want to see if this is to my liking. I'm exploring new fighting games because I am a fighter through and through. Albeit I dip a little bit into other video game genres like action games and JRPGs. But that's just my choosing. Sometimes, you know, it's like my choice. Sometimes a game will entice me, sometimes don't, but you know, fighting games will always entice me through and through. It's just how I grew up, what my upbringing was like, what did I play back in the day, you know, all that stuff. Yeah, I think that should wrap up today's, you know, LEPISODE. Next week episode is gonna be, I'm gonna have to think about that. I guess I could say, why should you get into fighting games? What is a fighting game? You know, what makes them tick? Why should you approach them? That type of stuff. But that's it for today's episode. Thank you guys a ton for tuning. Thank you guys a ton for tuning in. If you like what you saw, click the bell icon down below. I think it's been so. I see a lot of YouTube and I see a lot of like YouTube videos. I never look down at the bottom, but look down at the bottom, click on that subscribe button, and also click on that notification bell as well. That way you'll be notified on when I upload a video on the Khaiza channel. Thank you guys a ton for listening. I hope this was informative, helpful, innovative, funny, quirky. If it felt like long, I'm sorry. It's my teacher in me. It's my tutor in me. But yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys next week. Another Khaiza Dojo LEPISODE. I'm gonna have to like coin that one way or the other. But yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys later.